I'm Kathy King, founder of Helm Publishing and a private practitioner for 51 years. And I have with me Martha Boff. She is a dietitian who's been a dietitian for 2 years, and she has extensive experience that we're taking advantage of. And she's starting a business where she's helping with social media. We've really enjoyed working with her. Martha, could you tell me about your background?
So I've been a dietitian for 2 years, so I'm still fairly new, especially compared to your 51 years. I've always worked in the restaurant industry. I worked back of house. I've always been really into cooking because I loved food, I loved nutrition. Nutrition and dietetics really seemed like the best option. Finished my dietetic internship and I worked in a clinical position, and that just wasn't really the right fit for me. I wanted to find what kind of lit my fire, and I found that was with private practice specializing in sports nutrition for mountain athletes. Also started doing some social media consulting for Helm Publishing and just stringing positions together that I can use my expertise on. And so it's been really fun, and it's been a learning experience for sure.
Yeah, that's one thing that in earlier interviews that I didn't mention was the fact that when I started my business, I had skill at cleaning houses and sewing, and I helped support myself doing those kinds of things. And I know you have some side gigs too. Tell us about those.
So I'm creating content for Helm Publishing. I do social media consulting. I also create content for my private practice, and I work very part-time in a restaurant to help to kind of pay and foot the bill for everything that I'm starting right now. And then this is kind of off the deep end, literally, but I just started a mobile raw bar. I work directly with oyster farmers and have them ship fresh, sustainable oysters to Colorado.
That's fun. Could you give a short little spiel about oysters that you just told me about? I mean, because it's fascinating, and I have not had an oyster in a long time because I was afraid of the rawness of them.
Yeah, and oftentimes I find people are very weary of oysters. They're not the most aesthetically pleasing food to eat. Oysters are one of the most sustainable seafoods that you can eat, and one oyster can filter 50 gallons of water in a day. It's really interesting. There's so much that you can learn about oysters. They also are one of the healthiest foods, and I say that in the sense that it has the highest amount of zinc, loads of iron, vitamin B12, protein, omega-3s. I could go on and on. They take on the flavor of where they're from. We're discussing what we call terroir, so they're going to taste like where they're from. So depending on the salinity of the water, the minerality, what they do to cultivate these oysters. There's so many different ways that farmers are coming up with that are so, I guess, innovative.
It's so interesting to see once you've broken out of the mold of dietitians do clinical in the hospital setting or public health or whatever, and you start thinking about the possibilities of the food industry and the possibilities of meeting people where they are. I used to do corporate wellness, and in fact we're in Golden, Colorado right now, and I used to work in the clinic at Coors. And it was Bill Coors who interviewed me for the job because he had had a very negative experience with a dietitian sometime in his life, and he said he didn't want one to work for him unless he would interview. And so I interviewed for over an hour and a half, and I was fascinated by him. He wanted to be a physician and ended up, he had this brewery in his family. And so he had such innovative ideas and created one of the earlier wellness programs in the United States. And I think that once you get around people who are creative like that, you start thinking about the possibilities. What else could I do? What else could I do? How could I support, people having better nutrition in a small way? And you're going to be doing that. So I think that's admirable.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. Just surrounding yourself with people that have these ideas and allowing you to step outside the box and see that there's not one way to do these things. I didn't do well in clinical. It just wasn't a right fit for me and my personality and my goals ultimately. And so really just trying to draw from what am I good at, what am I interested in, and bringing that to dietetics, because as dietitians we have so much that we can offer outside of just nutrition advice or tube feedings. And if you're just assertive and you insert yourself in these places and you really can come up with a good argument or reason why you're good for that role, I feel like that possibilities are endless.
That I would agree with that. I think, like I was the first NFL dietitian here in the Denver area with the Broncos, and I had to interview with the lawyer of the team first, and then with the trainer, and they'd never had a dietitian ever. And you're trying to tap dance as fast as you can, trying to explain to them. And of course, I knew my sports nutrition previous to coming in there and such. And so I was trying to come up and create an idea of how they could use a dietitian. And then they took it from there. And they thought, we have a couple of players that could really use something like this. And so then they identified how I could intersect with what they had. And at that time, any food that was at the old training center was in a vending machine. There wasn't a training table or anything like that, And the guys were drinking 6 packs of beer every night, and they were saying that unfortunately the leaders of the team and such were not the ones who were the most responsible and you're working with a whole lot of things.
Oh yeah.
And you learn. You learn over a period of time. I wanted to say something that you mentioned that I think is extremely important for people to understand, and that is, as you go through entrepreneurship, clinical, public health, or any kind of thing, you learn what you don't like.
Yeah.
And that's as important as what you do like.
Absolutely.
So that you don't waste years.
Exactly.
And you go and you pursue the things that you're best at, or that you would really like to do. And there's going to be things like in private practice, when I bought an office and stuff, I was everything from the clean the bathroom janitor.
Yeah.
I also procured the IT, all of the IT stuff. I helped and organized the renovation of the building. It was from there up to the very top. I chose the products that we were selling and stuff. I organized the marketing. And some of those I didn't like doing at all.
Yeah.
And some of them I loved. And so if you have a job, you sometimes have to do it all.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you just do it. That's all there is to it. But there's other times when you have the choice, and you get away from the things that you're not good at. And it's not detrimental to say, I'm not any good at this.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
And therefore my heart's not in it. And so it's best if I find something else to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, it's so key to understanding that and understanding yourself and knowing that it's not one size fits all. Not everybody has to go to clinical. Not everybody has to go work in public health. There are things, if you're interested in pursuing, that you're able to kind of weave your interests in. Mine, I love mountain sports, and that's a population I want to work with because I understand them. I can empathize with them because I go through a lot of the same struggles as well with fueling and performance. So realizing that, and I think a lot of it too is getting out of your own head and realizing once you just start, that's what you have to do. You just have to start. And that's the hardest thing, just starting, because then you won't fail and then you won't learn from that. And I've learned so many things from missteps or things that I didn't like, and I wouldn't have known if I didn't just start.
That's exactly right. It's just when I was doing things, and even when I do them now, there's just some things that I just put up with.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's part of the job.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's other things that when you don't like them, you cut your losses.
Yeah.
And that's a real hard lesson for people to learn, is cut your losses. Don't be afraid to make a change.
Yeah.
Start talking to people, and that's one of the main reasons that you network.
Yeah.
Networking and getting involved in your dietetic organization, getting colleagues. After 3 years in business, probably half of all the consultant jobs or speaking engagements that came to me were from colleagues that didn't want to do them.
Yeah.
Something. and that was wonderful.
Yeah,
I-
because you liked it. You liked doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved doing that. I also got into doing more media, and I did Blinky's Fun Club for 4 years as a guest. You'd film the shows, and they'd show over the next month.
Yeah.
And there was a policeman and a nurse and some other people that all came. And then I did NBC TV. I was the noonday nutritionist for 4 years, and that was very comfortable for me. That wasn't a problem. Then I went out and I started doing media tours
Yeah.
for food companies and stuff. And I wondered why I was getting sick. I thought maybe that was the nerves.
Yes.
The nerves. It was just a situation where these kinds of things were comfortable for me, and I was in my environment and stuff. And then when I started doing the product promotion and I was trained on all these things and such, it wasn't as comfortable for me. I had to really listen to myself on that, because it hasn't gone away necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, and I, especially jumping out of your comfort zone, and that's something I have learned to do, making videos and having a social media presence. That really scared me to put myself out there, but once I did, I got more comfortable with it. And I think, and I tell people this too, if there's something that you're going after and you get a stomach ache or you're nervous, you should pursue that, because that's an indication that you're getting out of your comfort zone. And that happened to me a lot. I was nervous all the time. I hated being filmed. The second someone would put a camera on me, I would just cringe and forget my name and where I was, and but you become more comfortable with that over time. And I can't speak to it enough that you just have to do it. You just have to put yourself out there, and you become more comfortable with those uncomfortable feelings.
I would agree with that. I still do those kinds of things.
Yeah.
It hasn't always gotten better.
Yeah.
But I still think that it's an indication that you're trying something new.
Exactly.
And that's extremely important,
Yeah.
trying something new. I have a sister who has children's books, and I said, you just need to get a social media presence, and you need to be able to sell these books, because she's self-published. And she said, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I said, you having those boxes of books in your garage is not helping anyone out. All the reasons why you wanted to write these for children in the first place and stuff. In the beginning, she was more aggressive, and later on, she's waiting for someone to come along and just take this away from her, because she isn't comfortable. There's people you can hire that can do this for you, and can create her website, and minimize the amount of exposure that she has.
Yeah.
And so that's a real good lesson for people, is find people who can help you. You don't have to do all of this.
Yeah, definitely not.
And thank you for being here.
Yeah, of course.
I
Thank you for
appreciate
having
it.
me. Yeah.